If your life depended on having 60 days worth of food and water to survive in a zombie apocalypse, I think most of us are screwed. Hello everyone, author D.L. Tillery here, the Mistress of Horror, and welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, how about you press that subscribe button and ring that bell so you know when I'm uploading new videos. Welcome to Mistress, Mood, and Candlelight, where I review horror movies, horror books, and horror video games while I put on makeup. I will be reviewing and talking about Hashtag Alive. It's a zombie K-drama movie. So, um, stay tuned for this film. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you will too. I'll see you on the flip side. And it's time to prime for the premiere of Hashtag Alive. So, jumping right into why I was interested in Hashtag Alive. I watch K-dramas, Chinese dramas, and Japanese dramas predominantly for my watching pleasure. And Alive is a Korean-based horror film in the zombie genre. And of course, that automatically, Mistress of Horror, mixed with K-drama, all over it, obviously, sold already. So that's why I checked it out. When it first came out, I just rewatched it, obviously, so you all can hear about it. But I did enjoy it. I like the cast, and actually are actors that I do like, except for I'm really not a Park Shin-hee fan per se, but I have seen a lot of her stuff. The two main leads. The male lead is played by Yuan, and Park Shin-hee plays the female lead. And it starts off with the male lead. He is the predominant main character. I was interested right out the gate because I do like him and I've seen him in quite a many things. So Zombies, one of my chosen actors to watch. So I obviously sold on it right away. I checked it out. I really had to watch it. So like I said, I was waiting for it once I heard about it, and I viewed it as soon as it released. Um, easy sell for me. But we are primed. As you can see, I'm really priming my eyes today because I obviously plan to do a zombie goth look. So stay tuned for that as we go through. I don't know if you're into zombie films, but apparently you're watching this episode. You might be. I watch zombie films. I've seen quite a many of them. So of course this had to be put under my belt. Definitely was interested, definitely was watching it, definitely watched it. So we're primed for the premiere of Hashtag Alive. Let's jump into the story. To start the story off, you have the male lead and the female lead, but they do not show the female lead for quite some time. So we're going to start right off with our male lead, Oh Jung Woo. So, Oh Jung usually has like black hair, not this buzz cut blonde delinquent look that he's running in this one. And the character, they don't ever give the name, the ages of the characters, but he's obviously young in this, or playing young. So I'm thinking like late teens, like 18, 19 probably. That's where I'm guessing is where his character's age lies. So the movie starts with our main lead laying in bed, and it's like showing his room, and his room has a lot of tech in it. Okay, so he has like different tech and stuff. He's into computers and gaming, online gaming predominantly from the looks of it. I'm a console gamer soloist myself, but hey, do you, my boy, do you. So he's laying in bed and he like wakes up and gets up and then goes into the kitchen and sees a note from his mom on, I think it's some money or whatever, if I remember right. And she has to like get some groceries or whatever. So they're out of the house. His mother, his father, and his sister. He has a sister. So they are out of the house, and he's getting up late, per usual, probably for him, as he stayed up all night, probably gaming and being online. He has like a slight online social media presence, possibly, from what I gather throughout the movie. Um, so they showed that, but right out the gate, he's like gets on his game, like after he goes to the bathroom, blah blah blah, and then he gets on the game to play online. While playing online with his friends, I guess his online friends, whatever, they were playing a shooter, and some of the players start saying stuff and think like, "Is this real? This isn't real, is it? Is this happening? Is that CG?" And he's like, "What? What is it?" So he gets off the game, goes in and turns the TV on in the living room, and the news is like, "Oh, people attacking each other and blah blah blah." And he's hearing starting hearing sirens outside. They live in an apartment complex. Okay, that's important. They live in an apartment complex, and it's a lot of apartments, like a lot of apartments. Okay, and which is bad for a zombie outbreak. I'm just telling you, like, you don't want to be living in a metropolitan area. You do not want to be living in apartment complexes. That's the worst place you can be. But that's where he is, of course. So, he's hearing sirens and things and crazy ruckus going on. And on the TV, while they're letting him go towards the double glass doors to the balcony, well, it's not technically a balcony, it's like a railing. Not really much of a balcony, but like a railing, just so you can open your sliding doors or whatever. Um, but he's like on the fifth floor or whatever in this case. So he's not super high up, but up enough. And so he's going to look out there, and then the reporter on TV is lit up like there's something spreading. People are attacking each other, and like cannibalism is a thing. What? So we know what we're dealing with this movie. Like, we knew going in anyway. It's going to be zombies biting, eating, tearing people apart. We already know that's what's going to happen, okay? So he's at the window looking out, and it's all hell has broken loose. Like, people are running from each other, cars are pulling out, people stampeding out of the apartment complex across the way. And the way his apartment complex is made, is like the buildings are super high. I don't know how many floors this building has. Probably like 12 floors, 14, 20, I don't know, something ridiculous, right? So they're super high up, and there's apartments across from his complex. I mean, it's a circle down, and like you got the parking and stuff, and then there's like a subway that you could probably catch the subway and then come right out at your home, which is kind of cool and convenient. But not in this case. So you can see that, and then across the way, there's people stampeding out of the building trying to get out because the infection is spread out through the building. Of course, people were at home, they're eating each other, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so the first segment of him looking out the window trying to figure out what's going on after explosions and small explosions and things and car crashes and stuff right before his eyes, he sees a woman standing quietly in the midst of all this chaos. He sees the woman standing still on the steps, and she has like a cleaver in her hand. Yeah. She has a cleaver in her hand, and then you can hear a girl go, "Oh, Ma," calling for her. She turns and looks, and it's her daughter. And her daughter is a little bit across the parking lot, and she turns and goes towards her. Everybody's running around, people biting people, but you haven't really seen that directly yet. It's kind of like in the midst of it. And he's watching these two in shock from his vantage point. And the mother goes to the daughter, and she goes, "Ma," and she like hugs her, and then the girl starts twitching violently, and then she bites into her mother neck and pushes her on the ground, starts eating her, and he's like, "Oh, what the fuck," you know. So like, and it's just chaos everywhere below him and stuff, and he can hear people out in the halls, like getting attacked and all kinds of stuff. Like he's in trouble. Like, 'cause he's stuck in there. He's like been trying to call. He starts trying to call his parents and stuff. No, the signals are getting messed up. The TV's still on right now, and it's not good. Okay, it is not. It's not looking good for our main character here. All on the TV. It's warning you like stay in and don't go out. He cannot get in contact with his family. He's trying to, but he cannot. Uh, During the midst of this, he hears in the whole like commotion, and then it gets a little quiet. He goes over to the door and peeps out the peephole. He doesn't see anything. And so I don't know why. Why? So he opens the door, a crack, just a little bit, and a dude comes rushing and puts, pulls the door, gets in, and he's like, "What the you doing in my house? Get out!" And the guy's like, I'm your neighbor. Like, I know you. Like, we know each other. He's like, I don't give a get out. You're like, get out. You know what I mean? And he's like, look, just let me use the bathroom, okay? Just let me use the bathroom. Because after they kind of go back and forth, like he's trying to like pull him to get him out of his place. And so he's like, fine, like begrudgingly. And he goes into the bathroom, closes the door, turns water on. So he goes back over to the TV because the TV's back on because it went out previously. So he couldn't really hear anything. Went to that like the dreaded no signal stuff that goes on, okay? So he's like listening to the reporter. The reporter's like, oh, the infected will bleed from the eyes, and there's cannibalism, and they scream and stuff like that. So he's reading off the symptoms. I'm like, you forgot twitching and like contorting because that's what their bodies have been doing from him looking out the window and such. So, like, the dude, when he busts in, who's in his bathroom right now, tries to tell him, like, what's happened with his partner. Like, his brother is, like, my brother lost it and stuff. And he's like, I don't care what's going on at your place. Like, it's not my business. And so, that's important. He was being pursued by his zombie-infected brother. Yeah, and he's in his place now. So, you think he didn't get bitten? Not likely. Anyway, so he comes up. He's like, oh my god, this dude could be infected. So he like goes to the kitchen and goes to grab a knife out right when the dude comes out the bathroom and is holding like a towel on his neck. He didn't take a shower. He's holding there because he's been bitten. Okay, so like he's like turns around with the knife, like get the fuck out of here. He's like, look, just let me stay for an hour. Like, no, I'm fine. All right, while he's saying he's fine, while this dude is talking about he's fine, blood starts coming from his eyes, and he's like this twitching, and then veins start on. He's like, get out, like get out, and he's like backing him towards the front door, and he's kind of listening but not like, please no. And then he like looks in the mirror at himself, and the blood's coming out his eyes, whatever the fuck. Like he's about to turn, and he's like, get out, like, and he's attempting to try to leave, but he's losing, slowly but surely losing control of himself. Okay, like he's not gonna be able to be in control of himself very soon. So listening isn't going to be a thing. So he continues to try, and he starts contorting and bending his body uncontrollably, like a werewolf transformation almost. No. So this is going down, and he's like pointing a knife at him, like, get out. And then we have a second of pausing. And then the dude's back bends back like that, and he stares off into nothing with blood running down his eyes. And then he bends down, like his hand tries to open the door still, but then he gives that up and then turns to him and charges him. He charges back at him, gets him out the door, and slams it because his hand tries to keep open. He slams it shut, but then peeps out the door at the same time. The dude's brother that was next door, the big guy, big burly dude, like beats his body up. He's a zombie itself now. Beats his body up, and breaks his back or his spine, and drags the other zombie off. Like, his brother, I have a feeling, did not like him when they were alive. Because, like, listen, these things can have patterns, as the reporter said on TV. So yeah, might have been a bully to his brother. Anyway, that happened. He is freaked out. He knows what happens now. He knows this. He knows. So he's like listening to the reporter again. The next day, like he gets a signal where like his mom trying to send a message to him. So some text come through, and she says like you have to survive. Like we're trying to, the first text said we're trying to get back. We're trying to get back. And then it's the next one says we can't make it back. But you gotta survive, son. You gotta survive. That's probably a blessing in disguise. They probably came back and like totally infected or whatever the hell. That little bit of text make it through, and at the same time, the freaking reporter on TV actually says, you know, stay inside, and then make sure you have at least 60 days worth of food and water. What? What? 60 days of food and water. Who? Like, who on a regular affording to have 60 days of food and water, and let alone a place to store it? Like, sir, do you mean that I should at least have boxed and canned food? Just sitting around that's amount worth 30 to 60 days? Most people go to the food store at the most for 2 weeks because food goes bad even when refrigerated. So I guess he means like canned and boxed food. No, not even then, unless you're a person who like a survivalist or something. Like, okay, yeah, my house we do have stuff like that because we don't think normal. I don't think normal. Like, I'm the mistress of horror, so obviously I don't. But the majority of people are not going to have 60 days worth of water and food. I was like, where and who, sir? And then he checks to see what he has. Of course he doesn't have anything. Heck, he didn't even get to go to the grocery store for regular. He sees that he only has like 7 tippy type of meals. Like granola bars, little fruit here, there, whatever. A little bit of water. Because now the water situation's bad. Like the water, they don't have any bottled water. You can't go to the store. Like you have faucet water, but you know that's going to get turned off at some point. The power's going to get turned off at some point. So he's like looking. He doesn't have anything really. So he's spreading the stuff out and trying to see how many days he'd be able to scratch it. Yeah, he's screwed. Anyway, especially in that department. He's like, yeah, I'm not. This is not good. This is bad. Okay, like he knows it's not a good situation. Let's just be honest. Okay, like he knows he's in a shady situation. The next big sequence that occurs is it's at night and he hears like a woman fighting for her life. A cop, she's running and she's shooting, and like he looks first and a stray bullet comes up and he ducks like, oh shit. She is running from a pack of zombies. There's other cop zombies chasing her, and zombies coming from every which way. She's firing at some, and then she runs out of bullets that's in the gun, which is not the best time. So she tries to reload while a non-shot zombie is coming right at her. So she drops the it's like maybe it's a 6 caliber, maybe a 6 shooter, I'm not sure. But she drops the loader that's loading the bullet because, you know, they got the quick loader. And then she has to pick them up by hand because she drops them. And then she managed to get 1 in the chamber or 2 in the chamber, I think, right before the zombie gets to her. She shoots the zombie. And then the other ones are getting close, so they're pulling at her, and she's trying to dodge them, but that's not looking good. So she falls, and then they're they start piling on her, three of them on her, and she has the gun. They start biting her, and he's like watching this in terror from up in his balcony area. Barely a balcony yet again. I'm saying that. And he's looking, and she tries to point the weapon under her neck like she's gonna, you know, delete herself because it's better that than being eaten alive. And one of the zombies is biting her shoulder, like knocks her arm or like grabs her arm so he can get a better bite in, I guess. And then she drops the gun, and they drag her body like running like dogs or something. Drag her body to the subway station entrance where there's lots of other zombies, and then like they go to pull her in, and he just can't take it anymore, watching someone be eaten alive. And he screams at him like, "Suck yeah!" like across the way, and all the zombies turn their eyes on him, and she looks up at him like that, and he's like looking at her like he wants to save her, but he can't, and she cries, like tears fall down her eyes. I'm like, so fucked up, like it's so fucked up. And so he can't save her, obviously, and then they pull her in to the subway, and she gets eaten alive. So he's like, since he yelled though, zombies from his building heard that. So they come like trying to his door, but it's the big Bubba dude. That's not good. So he had put a refrigerator in front of his door before this because of the whole thing of the other dude coming in and stuff. That dude busted in the door. The door closes behind him. They're automatic closing doors, and he's right behind the refrigerator when he goes to check because he has like, he got a golf club. He has a golf club in his hand, and the the zombie sees him and tries to charge him, but has to push the refrigerator over. And this dude is big and tough, and zombies have no threshold, hence why they seem like they're super strong, but they're really not stronger non-humans. They're really just, they don't have a pain threshold because their nervous system is shot. So that whole thing, he gets in, he jumps over the railing, ducks down the railing, and the zombie goes over the balcony. So he's like, "You fucker," like that, and he gets back in, and then he decides to tape up his window, okay? So he decides to tape up his window so he won't see stuff, because then he'll just lose his shit. So that's what he does. He covers the windows with like plastic and stuff. So now he's like, days have passed. It goes to like skip 7 days. Skip 7 days. My boy's going a little stir crazy already. It's been a week. His food is dwindling, of course. There's not much hope, looks like, but then little things like the noises and things happen. Then it goes like 10 days. He records a little video on, like, he saw some people on his phone were doing it. They were putting out SOSs. So he did one too, and saying where he was, holding up his sign of his address, which building. And so with that, he records another video saying, like, just reporting on what's going on or whatever. I guess it's something for him to try to do to hopefully live. And then it goes to 10 days. So it's about to get bad. Well, like, it's not already bad. Day 10. I believe it's day 10 at this point. He wanted to try, the message came through partially at some point. It came partially through, like, his mother left a voicemail, and she's like, "Son, it's me, but it's breaking up," so he doesn't have a strong enough signal, so he has to figure out a way to get the signal. He saw in a video clip why he didn't bother doing this, like, dude trying to stick out on his, like, railing at the apartment complex with his selfie stick out to try to get a signal, and like he lost his balance and falls. So he's like, that's not a great idea, but he does end up kind of trying to do that at one point. But it comes in, he does do this. He leans out and he gets the video, he gets the message to play where he can hear it. And his mom, and she said, "You okay?" And this must have came in a couple days ago. But it couldn't come through until just then. At least that's my assumption. And she says, "Are you okay?" And his father saying, "Son," and stuff. And he said, "Your sister's here with us." And then you hear, they said, she said, "We're at your father's office." And then you hear the zombies breaking in, and his mother screaming. And the zombies can hear the video, the message playing, because he's leaning outside his apartment, and they're like below, and he's looking at the zombies as he's listening to his parents get eaten alive and screaming, and his mother saying, "Help me, help us," and it's terrible. So he does not take this well, obviously, because who could listen to their family getting eaten alive? Like, I don't know who would and be fine. So he, like, gets back inside and he beats up his place. Like, he attacks the fucking apartment, like, breaks his TV, kicking stuff. I mean, he's a young man, so, aggression is there. So He's lost it at this point. He grabs the golf club and goes out the door and beats the first zombie in the head to death. Then he goes around the corner and sees his neighbor who got dragged off in the hall eating another zombie, eating another person that wasn't a zombie, probably was a zombie at some point. And he like crawls away. He's like, "What do you want? Like what? Like that." But then some other zombies are down the way. He's like, "Oh shit!" And he has to run and hide. Like he goes to the elevator, and then there's a bunch of zombies down that way. They're coming at him. And then one's come off the elevator, and he's running. He hides. They can't hear you if you're quiet. Okay, so keeping that in mind, he's hiding. So he goes back to go to his apartment real easy. But then there's zombies in the hallway, so he kind of like has to hide before he can get back in his place. So he gets back in his place, and then it's like is ridiculous. He doesn't have as much food as the little bit of food that he did have, because when the big burly zombie got in, he knocked over the little bit of stuff he had in the fridge, because the fridge was blocking the door. So he has a little bit of scraps left. So I think it's like day, I don't know, 12, 15, something close to 20. And he's had enough, I think. You know, his family's dead. It just looks like, and he's about to starve. Like, there's no water, really. So, then the only best next thing to do is to take your own, you know. So, deleting. And that's what he goes for. So, he tries to do the old classic. Get the rope around the neck. And, in the midst of doing that, I mean, right before that, he makes a video online and says, you know, hi, and then kind of chuckles and goes, onion. And then he does the thing, and while doing that, his doors were open. He left the two glass doors open. A little red beam, like, comes in and goes like this across his face, and he's like, what? And then the light goes over back into the house, like, across the wall, and, it's a picture frame with writing on it or whatever. And he kind of like gets himself loose because he's trying to get loose because he's trying to see what that is. And it breaks and he falls to the floor. And then he looks what the beam is doing, and it's trying to point out two letters on the picture. And it kind of reads, you moron. And he's like, what? And he like follows where the light's coming from. It's coming from across the apartments across the way. And it's the female lead has made her entrance. And she's like mouthing, you idiot. And he's like, what? Call me an idiot? Like that. And then he's like happy to see someone. So her showing herself at that point, she pretty much saves him kind of situation. So they start connecting, and she tells him tomorrow morning. She tells him tomorrow at 7, like by just pointing at her watch. She's like, tomorrow at 7 a.m., tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., so shh, be quiet and stuff like that. They show inside her place. She's like she has camping gear and stuff. Like, she's a survivalist, but I think at this point they're just showing you that she's a little ahead of him. Like, she has already gone through stuff he's gone through, and then she's at the point of, I want to survive right now anyway. And so the next morning, my boy overslept. When they first showed her in there, it was like she has like a contraction set up at her door, like the chair has spikes on it or something in case the zombies break in. So apparently she already had that happen where they broke into her place. And one tries to, and that's why she tells she'll see him at 7 a.m. in the morning, because one kind of broke in, but she stopped him with that, and then she has to hit him in the head with her little hand axe. So yeah, that whole segment happens. So, you know, she takes care of that noise, and then the next morning, like I said, he oversleeps. Worst time to do that. So he oversleeps, and then he goes to the door like, oh shit, and she's looking with her binoculars and checking up the building, while he's being like, oh man, I fucking missed the time. And then she sees that the 8th floor has an apartment that looks like it's empty. You know, she's been like, I noticed that. So, you know, then she comes to the door all the way, and he's like, oh, there she is. And then she's like, didn't I say 7? So he's like, I'm sorry. The next morning, they do make up at 7 so that they can, I guess, chat and try to come up with a plan, because the zombies are mostly probably sleeping or resting at that point. They aren't as aware as doing the day afternoon like he was about to wake up at. So he does wake up on time that time. They need to get a plan so they can find some way to get out of there or something. She wants to go up in his building, but she's across, so that'd be kind of interesting how you want to do that, right? He's like, oh, she sees he heals his stomach, and because he's hungry, he has no food. She still has a little, so she wants to try to get something over to him. So she ties something and then ties something to a ball in order to get a rope across to his apartment. For some reason, she thinks she's gonna, like, she's a baseball player or something. She's gonna throw this all the way across the way. Like, the distance is too far for that, okay? But she attempts it, and she, like, works her arm and stuff. Like my girl thinks she gonna do it. And then she tosses the ball, and it totally just goes down and hits the top of the subway, like, covering thing. And she's like, like that. And he's like, well, I got a plan. So he pulls his droid, a droid out that he has. Earlier, he used this droid, the flying droids. He used that to take his phone up higher to get a better signal to call his father, I should say, because he couldn't make a call. But the battery had died on his phone, I think, right at the time. So that didn't work. So anyway, he's using the droid again, and it has some power left. So he goes and takes a rope across to her. She grabs it, ties it. No problem solved. So she sends him a little bit of food, you know. Gives him a little bit of food over, like literally a little bit, like a granola bar and some ramen and some water. And she leaves a note and it says eat slowly. So he's eating some like thank you and stuff. And but while he's eating it, he sees something below, and she's not paying attention. So she's looking across at him. He's trying to get her attention, like look, and she looks down. There's a freaking fireman zombie looking at the rope she had through earlier. She hadn't pulled it back up. And remember the pattern thing, so they remember how to do some things. He's like, well, I used to climb in practice. So and then climb things and ropes and stuff, you know. He's a fireman. So he goes start climbing the thing, but she has the rope tied to a big kitchen table in her place. So she looks back in her apartment to try to go towards it. When the zombie goes to climb, it pulls it fast and it hits her in the stomach and knocks her out. So now the table is at the railing and the zombie's able to climb up. And then he's like, oh, losing his mind across the ways. He can't do anything. Here we go again. The zombie gets part of the way up, and then he gets his droid out because she's knocked out. He gets his droid back out and sends it over there to distract the zombie. The other zombies don't climb up because they have no way of knowing how to do it. It's something they must have had to do when they were alive. So he distracts the zombies is swinging at the droid because it's like, get out of my face, I'm trying to get my food. So he's like trying to distract it. Then he gets distracted because whatever reason, I guess the zombies outside his apartment building or in his hall could hear him making some noise, I suppose. Seems a little far-fetched. He'd make any noise. So they're like trying to bang on his door, and he gets distracted for a second, and the droid falls, and he catches it the last second and sends it back up there, but then the zombie grabs it and breaks it. And then it gets over the railing right when He wakes up and slices his arm off, and the zombie falls, plummets back to its second death. So good for her, good timing, good for him saving her. So anyway, a little bit of time passed. He's like, I have to go farming. Like, you know, he played video games, so he needs to go get some ration because he really doesn't have enough left, even with the little bit of ramen she sent. So he decides he's going to go out that night and try to go into some apartment or something, see if anybody has food that he can get. He goes out and then sneaks into his, finds the body of the zombie who's his neighbor next door, gets his keys, and goes to his place. There's a body laying in the bedroom from a distance. So he throws a shoe to see if it moves. It doesn't. So he looks through the house. He gets a few things out the fridge, some peanut butter, some Nutella, like chocolate, in the room where the zombie body is. It's not alive though, so that's good. So he sees that the dude who lived there as well is also a cliffhanger type or something. So he like gets supplies, a few things. He finds these wired earphones because he wanted some earlier on to try to fix a radio, get a radio signal so he can hear if there's other news because the TV is out. So he gets that and gets a jacket. He's actually like he's farming in a video game, like, look at this nice jacket I got, like this new armor. So he does that, but then before he leaves out, he has to look at the zombie underneath the blanket. So he pulls back the blanket, and it's a woman. Obviously, she didn't even ever get to get up, and her neck is like bitten and infected. And then there's a zombie in the doorway, though, so there was someone else in the apartment. And the zombie tries to attack him, biting at him and stuff. He gets out of the apartment and back to his apartment. So he did get a few things, and then he sends it over to her. He also found a two-way radio at the time, which is good because now they can communicate. So they're like getting to know each other and talking and stuff. So that's a segment for this. They get to know each other and talk and stuff, and it's kind of like a little bit funny and blah blah. And they down to show in her apartment doing that, some of the segment that she did try to hang her soul. She tried to leave herself at one point, but she got past that. I guess on her own, her case. It broke when the looks of it. Well, she wanted to live, so it changed her mind the last minute. They decide that they need to get out, and but she's like, okay, well, I have to come to you, I guess, because we need to get to the 8th floor. It look like it's empty. And she's a climber, but she has fear of heights because she fell when she was a little bit younger, but she's still into the climbing stuff. So she has some of the gear. So she decides she's going to jump out her window over the railing and get to his building, which is zombies everywhere, so it's not like it's that simple. So they have their plan. They're going to get up to the 8th floor of his building. But that apartment looks empty. Doesn't like it's as many zombies up there, possibly. They can't tell that much. So as they make this decision, he's like, I'm going to go down. How about I jump down and I clear it? While he's saying that, she's like, okay, I'm jumping out. So she jumps out and goes down. The girl has her hand axe. And she's like running and slicing zombies to get to his building. He's like, who is she, man? And then she runs, and then she gets to the car. She hits the zombie that's trying to charge her with the car door. And then she crawls through the car because the zombies are coming at her fast. And then and then they're trying to get her. She's running, and she sees the gun on the ground that the cop who died earlier dropped. And then she has her little hand pickaxe thing she's using to slice them that coming at her. And they end up grabbing her, and she gets to the gun, and then she tries to shoot. And then they have her pinned a little bit, trying to bite her. But then he shows up because he jumped down. And then they're fighting their way back into his building. And as they get in the building, the zombies are bashing against the glass, and they get on the elevator. Then they get on the elevator, and then the glass cracks, so the zombies bust through right when the door is closing. Yay. So they go up to the 8th floor. Doors open. There's nothing coming charging at them, shockingly. Believe me, I was shocked too. So they get off, and then they start going down the hall trying the doors. And of course, zombies show up down the other end of the hall behind them. And they talk shit. So they try to hurt and finally get into an apartment on that floor. And she keeps going, and he pulls a gate thing and try to stop him and beating him in the head with his golf club that he's carrying. And they got their backpacks and everything packed because they were not planning on going back to their places, obviously. They're trying to get to the 8th floor. They're on it, and then the door opens, and some person pulls her in and throws smoke bombs. I just do have smoke bombs. At where the zombies are down the way, and then he gets him up, and they get in his apartment. Park Shin-hee's character, she is not trusting this dude. She's like, why'd you save us? Like, and has her pickaxe aimed at him. He's like, oh, calm down. Like, can you tell her to put that down? He's like, oh, and she's like, no. So he goes in, and he's like, you guys, you pouring some water, and they sitting at the table, and she's like, what are you up to? I don't trust you at all. So she does not trust him, smart girl. So he drinks the main character after the guy, like, I know you think that I blah, blah, blah. And then he drinks the water because he drinks the same bottle. So he pours it in a glass for all three of them. But he probably has something in their glasses. So he downs his. So the male lead thinks that it's fine. So he downs his as well. Go ahead and drink it. And she sips hers. Still skeptical. And then, he's a little bit younger than her. Maybe by a year or two, maybe. So he's still a bit more of a kid than her. She's a little less trusting. You notice that this dude is alone. But then he gets up and you guys want something to eat? So he gives them food to eat. Not a cane. And the main male lead's like, I want some spam. So they eat the food and stuff. And while they're eating, and they're chatting a little bit. And she's like, how long have you been hiding here? He gets up and is smoking a cigarette right standing in the kitchen. But behind him is a picture of him, his wife, and a child. Where's the wife and the child? Dum dum dum. So anyway, she's like, what, like, how long you been hiding? Like, how did you stay hidden here? And he's like, it's easy to hide, you know what I'm saying? Like, hiding is easy, like that. And she's like, okay, hiding is easy, okay. So when he says that, notice that the male lead, he passes out on the table, and she's like, well, she starts feeling a little dizzy. And he's like, right before the male lead passes out, she says, well, do you have any children? Because she sees baby formula and bottles in the kitchen. And he says, no, not until you kids showed up. And she's like, what, excuse me? And then she gets dizzy. June passes out, or on table, the male lead passes out. And she's like, oh shit, like tries to wake him up. And he turns around and he's like, it'll be over soon, type of thing. He like zip ties the male lead's hands while he's knocked out on the table. She falls on the floor, and then he like grabs her and starts dragging her towards one of the back rooms. You know what's about to happen. You already know. They so he drags her into the room, and you see that he has his wife tied up like a dog, so he can have her on a leash around her waist, and he goes out the room after he zip ties the female's hands, leaves her in there to be eaten by his wife. Ew. And he's one of the crazies of the zombie apocalypse. Don't trust anyone is the #1 rule in a zombie apocalypse, okay? Don't just be like, people come up and stuff. You got the crazies with the guns. You got a lot of crazy people. This hell's on. Crazies, and he's one of them. He's one of the ones that keeps his family members and feeds people to them, okay? And he's like, well, thank you for coming here because my wife would have starved otherwise. He's saying through the door while she's screaming and calling for the male lead, and he's letting her loose because he has the leash rope underneath the door that he had tied to the handle, so he starts letting some of the slack up, and she's trying to get to her in the baby's room that he dragged her into. Apparently the baby been died, zombie thing. And then the main character comes awake while he's behind trying to explain, like, oh, won't beat my wife, blah, blah. And he's like, I don't understand. He has a gun pointed at him. And he's like, well, let the rope go. And the main character goes for the rope so he can try to keep the zombie away from her behind the closed door, not that he can see. And he like goes and gets a knife to try to stab him and stop him from stopping the zombie from getting to the girl. So he's like, why are you doing this? Like, don't, stay back. But in the room, like, it gets quiet. So they both think that the zombie woman probably got to her, but she did not. He opens the door crack, and then he has, like, she must have used a rope because it went all the way under the door and held her off, and then she pushes her towards him. His wife bites and eats his neck. He's like, it's okay, I love you, it's okay. Like, it's really sad though. And he's lost his mind, obviously, and she shoots them both in the head. That being said, then now she's lost all hope. Mid of them having the meal, back a little bit. When he was having the meal with them before they passed out, he mentioned that there was a rescue team he had heard on the radio. This was actually true. And so, but they don't necessarily believe him because he's a nutbag now that they've shot him and he's tried to feed him to a zombie. And Park Shin has lost her will. She's like, it's okay, like, hands the male lead the guns, and she wants him to take care of both of them. But they hear a helicopter in the midst, so then they's like, oh, we want to live, so they start crying. And then they run out and use the smoke bombs and go to the roof. It's hard to get to the roof. The zombies are coming. They're after them. They're close to not making it. So they get to the rooftop, and then nothing. The helicopters that they heard, they don't see them anymore. So they're on the rooftop like, this is it. And the zombies busting, and right before they get to them, after they take the last 2 bullets and shoot zombies instead of shooting themselves, good thing they didn't do that, the helicopter comes from below and is filled with military guys, and they shoot up with the zombies and save them. So they are saved. Then messages start coming in, and it shows that message that he sent out earlier, SOS, where he was with his address and showing a picture of himself. That's why they were in the area, because other people have done the same. So they got saved and they fly off in the helicopter. And there's 2 cool songs in this movie. This movie is about 1 hour and 30 minutes probably, and 2 cool songs. I'll have to link them in the description because I danced on these 2 songs already. They're cool. Like, one segment, the song plays, it's like a rap song, and the main character is losing his mind, so he's like dancing around drunk, drinking all this liquor, and crying. One other segment I didn't mention, he breaks down, and the acting is really on point because he's a young man, and he sleeps one night. One morning he wakes up and he dreams that his mother and father and sister came home, and he was hugging his mother, and then but he's just having a delusion. He actually woke, and he starts crying that he's alone, that they're never coming back, um, and it's pretty sad. And he breaks down, cries, screams, and then like falls asleep at one point during that whole crying segment. It's pretty sad, but it's a really good movie. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It's a good horror movie. How do you guys think about my zombie makeup? Check out hashtag alive. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. And that's it for Mistress Mood and Candlelight. Next time it probably will be, it's time again for a book. The next time it'll be some horrific book tale that I'll review and cover for you while I put on makeup. I'll see you next time. Stay scared.